Welcome into another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview presented by RiverLand Roofing. I am Neal McCready. That is MPW Digital football expert Pete DeWeese. So we get you ready for another weekend of Ole Miss football. This weekend, the Rebels step out of conference play one final time. At least they hope it's not the final time. But one final time in the regular season, the Rebels play the Citadel on Saturday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern time. The game can be streamed on SEC Network, ESPN Plus, SEC Network Plus, whatever. It's the streaming game. It's Ole Miss.
Not on YouTube TV.
Yeah, not on YouTube TV. Everybody's got one streaming game a year. This is Ole Miss's against the Citadel. The Citadel 4-5, coming off of a win over Virginia Military. A comeback win in which I think they scored 28 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win the game. It's the 81st meeting of the Grand Military something. I don't know. Bulldogs 4-5. Ole Miss beats South Carolina last week 30-14. The Rebels now, 8-1 overall. They are 5-1 in the SEC. Have two SEC games coming up after this one. You guys probably know the score by now. If you're watching this show, you're probably somewhat dialed in. Ole Miss 7th in the AP, 7th in the coaches poll, but most importantly, they're number 6 as of right now in the college football playoff rankings, which were released for the first time earlier this week. Ole Miss, if the season ended today, and it doesn't, would play Virginia in a first-round game in Oxford. So the point of that is not to get ready for the Cavaliers. The point of that is to say this is where this team is at this moment. If they win out, everything looks really, really good for the Rebels. So lots at stake here in the last 20 days of the season as they get ready for the Citadel, then Florida, then at Mississippi State on the day after Thanksgiving. So, Pete, welcome into the show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Playoff time for you guys as well. High school ball, everybody's getting ready to do that. This is I told you we were telling a Carson story a minute ago. Playoff time in any sport, I get kind of I don't know why. High school playoffs, this will wear off one day and I'll move on, but right now whenever I hear the word playoff, I get a little emotional. I kind of do. I remember his playoff games in soccer and how emotional they were, and I think about all the kids that I'll never meet. I don't know them. I think about their parents and coaches and the relationships and stuff, and those going into those games that are potentially the last game. And I always think about just the emotion of it. I kind of feel myself kind of choking up, and I'm going to move on to another subject.
I mean, listen, Lane and Kirby talked about it earlier in the season. There's nothing like high school. There is nothing like it.
There's nothing like high school sports.
And the playoff season and those big district games or region games. I mean, that's the pinnacle of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, Carson played soccer, and so the scouts would watch the club games. That's where all the offers were determined and stuff. But the games that mattered to him, the games that he'll think about the rest of his life, the games that he'll talk about the rest of his life, and this applies to high school football and basketball and everything. It's the high school games. It's your guys, you know, you're playing with your guys, the guys you go to school with, and the coaches that are in the halls every day, and the coaches that you work with and get to know and build relationships with, the ones that yell at you and scream at you, and then that last night they hug you. And that's the cool stuff. You don't get that in club. You know, you get that in high school though. It's really cool.
Yeah. No, you don't get it in club, and you certainly don't get it really right now very much in the college game. You know, and so, yeah, it's certainly a special time of year, and excited to be there. And, just like Ole Miss, just got to try to keep playing good football and keep putting wins on the table.
Yeah, that was the coolest part, honestly, of that post game was Lane talking about, I can't remember when it happened. It may have been Sunday when he talked about it, but maybe even been the Monday after. The night before, Lane's son Knox had gotten a start because of the kid in front of him had a concussion, and he got the start and came in and led a comeback. And he talked about Lane, of course, couldn't be there, which I've been there. Other parents have been there. It sucks. You can't be there. And he got to watch the stream, and I'm sure it was incredibly exciting. And this is the next day, and they're coaching text, even though he was getting ready to go up against Kirby and they were going to try to kill each other in front of 90,000 people. In that moment, he sent the text of Knox, the highlights, and I'm sure all those guys are dads too, for the most part. And for at least for a moment, they weren't competitors. They were like, "Hey, that's really cool, huh?" And the high school stuff is awesome. So good luck to your team.
Thank you.
I hope they go far. All right, before we dive into we'll look at the South Carolina game a little bit from last weekend. Ole Miss gets a 30-14 win on a really raucous night at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. We'll look ahead to the Citadel. Before we do that, let me tell you that we're brought to you by RiverLand Roofing. When it comes to durable, high-performance roofing, RiverLand stands above the rest. As a licensed, insured, and GAF Master Elite Certified Roof Replacement Contractor with more than 60 years of combined experience, RiverLand specializes in roof repairs, replacements, and maintenance for both residential and commercial properties. RiverLand Roofing combines expert craftsmanship with cutting-edge roofing technology to ensure long-lasting protection for your home or business. Their team of manufacturer-trained specialists delivers top-tier service while staying within your budget. Whether you need a minor roof repair or if you're like me this summer where you needed a complete roof replacement, RiverLand provides customized solutions tailored to your needs. To learn more, call RiverLand 662-644-4297 or visit their site, riverlandroofing.com. And please make sure that you tell RiverLand Roofing you heard about them on MPW Digital. If you're watching this show, as opposed to listening to it, which you should, I'll give it a little credit where credit is due. This show is produced by our intern, who I'm sort of biased towards. Her name is Caroline McCready. She puts this show together in the late hours on Wednesday after Pete and I finish, and I send it to her. She produces it, loads it into YouTube, gets it ready to go on Thursday, and then I will get the audio version of this in case you're coming up this weekend. I'll get the audio version of this to you so you can listen to it. But down the road, as we get hopefully ready for the playoffs and those kinds of games, you're much better off watching this, because every single week, including last week against South Carolina, there are things that happen on the field in front of me that I would not have noticed had it not been for the hour or so that I spend with Pete on Wednesday nights and that you guys get to spend with him watching on Thursday. I've gotten something out of literally every single week that has helped me sort of understand the game that I'm watching, and in my case, covering. And frankly, I think it's allowed me, Pete, and I mean this sincerely, I'm not just blowing sunshine. I think I've enjoyed it more. I kind of see some things where I'm like, ooh, that's what he was talking about. And I kind of like that. That's kind of fun, honestly, because sometimes the games are complicated. The coaches are really good. Everybody that coaches at that level is pretty sharp, and they're working at a different wavelength than, not you, but a different wavelength than me. I don't coach football. I don't watch film all day. I don't put game plans together. So they do. You do. I don't. And so as that happens, sometimes I'm like, I don't really know what they're trying to do. And you have enabled me and our audience to go, oh, this is what Ole Miss is trying to do, or this is what, in this case, South Carolina is trying to do to Ole Miss. And that's been enlightening. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. I enjoy doing it, and I always enjoy the feedback that we get, whether it's people that leave comments on YouTube or people that are on the message board, asking questions and sharing things. And I try to make sure that I don't always present things with the just Kool-Aid glasses on. I try to be fair, and sometimes I probably say things that maybe people don't want to hear, and sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm not. And as long as Ole Miss keeps winning, because I am a fan, I'm good being wrong,
Well, I mean, it was their first win in the league that wasn't a one-score win. I mean, Lane talked about that right out of the gate. And their one loss was to Georgia, was a one-score loss. I mean, the games against Kentucky and Arkansas and LSU and Georgia and Oklahoma and were all one-score games. So, I mean, there's no point in pretending that the teams are perfect. The league's really close, right? You saw in the CFP rankings the other day. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5, 6. With Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, and then down a little ways, you've got Texas and Oklahoma and Vanderbilt still alive, Missouri hanging on by a thread. And I mean, the league's really good. And it stands to reason that when those teams meet each other, there's going to be some good and bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, this game's it's always about matchups, and I think Ole Miss has done a phenomenal job of mitigating the mismatches that they've had to face at certain times. And I do think that there are some teams that may be ranked ahead of Ole Miss that I think Ole Miss can definitely play with them. I don't necessarily feel like they're great matchups for Ole Miss. And that's really just going to be the kind of the way this thing unfolds down the road in these next three games is there's not going to be a ton of matchup problems on Saturday against the Citadel. There's going to be some scheme things that shouldn't be a big issue for Ole Miss, and I don't anticipate them being an issue. But you go back to that Florida game last year, and there were matchup issues, and it was a systematic thing, it was a personnel thing, and they're still going to face those issues when the Gators come to town. They're going to face those issues when Ole Miss goes to Starkville, and what Ole Miss has done a great job of is, like I said, is kind of overcoming some of those mismatches that might exist. And you look at the way that they played, not only against South Carolina, but the way that they played against Oklahoma, and even the way they played against Georgia. They really attacked the strength of some of those teams and held their own, and certainly showed some flaws. But there's not a perfect football team. I mean, Ohio State's playing really damn good football right now, but they're not a perfect football team. And so as long as this staff at Ole Miss can keep doing what they're doing, and as long as the players can continue to execute at a high level, you're going to walk away from every game and realize you got away with things. And that's one of the things we talked about last week was, you know, not that we necessarily agree with what Venables had said in the comment he made after the game, but there were times on film where you could see that Oklahoma had opportunity to create explosives with their offense, and whether it was because of pressure or whether it was because of the quarterback not being in a rhythm and not being able to make the play, they weren't able to, and it obviously benefited Ole Miss. And the same thing happened in this game against South Carolina. You know,
I feel bad
we
saying what I'm about to say, but because I'm not a look. I mean, I've made the joke, but it's the truth. I mean, I've coached one football game in my life. It was a powder puff game when I was a senior at Ruston High School. And I can't remember if I coordinated offense or defense. I think defense. Regardless, Mike Shula has forgotten more football than I'll ever know. But a layman's observation from the press box: what they were trying to do with Lenore Sellers was sort of malpractice.
listen. I mean, if you were sitting in the press box with binoculars watching Beamer's reaction when he had to call the timeout
I
there,
did.
that
I
that
did.
that tells you a little bit, for sure.
Shane
No,
Shane had words.
Shane, he absolutely had some words. And so, listen, I think maybe that makes a natural place for us to kind of start
It's
and
all
look
yours.
at this the South Carolina offense against this Ole Miss defense last weekend in Oxford. So, I always just personally take a little bit of pleasure when I turn the film on to review and I see some of the things that we talked about, right? Just, gives me a little bit more validation. And one of the things we talked about last week was what I dubbed the divide series. And we're early in the game for this South Carolina offense. And several of the things that we talked about last week, we talked about how they try to divide you using motion, using the two tight end sets, and how they have the ability to expand the ball behind those two tight ends or go back the opposite direction, be it with the quarterback or tailback. We saw it early in the game. The other thing that we highlighted looking back at Oklahoma and kind of projecting forward to South Carolina was Ole Miss has had some issues with motion throughout the course of the year and handling motion. And I've pulled seven clips, and three of these are damn near back to back to back, and it's that South Carolina offense trying to use motion to take advantage of the Ole Miss defense. And in a lot of ways, I think the commentators on Saturday talked about South Carolina going sideways and trying to exploit the edge of the defense for Ole Miss for good reason. I mean, the strength of the Ole Miss defense is the interior of that defensive line. they've been really good all year long. And the only team that's really been able to kind of lean on them and really find some creases consistently has been Georgia. And other teams have struggled a little bit. And so South Carolina felt that the best way to attack Ole Miss was on the edge and use motion and to try and get the secondary out of position. And that was definitely a big major part of their game plan. I saw one random commenter on social media at some point, kind of bashing them for not trying to run the ball inside on Ole Miss. And honestly, that's not the move, that not right now and not the way that South Carolina's built. So let's dive in. Let's look at some of these clips and let's talk about what teams are seeing on film in regards to this Ole Miss defense and how I anticipate teams continuing to try to attack them. And so this is one of the divide series plays like we talked about where they're going to put two tight ends to one side, two receivers to the other, and they are going to use motion to try and get numbers and gain an adjustment. Well, it has been a heavy run formation for them for the most part prior to now. And a lot of times when they do it, they're going to put these two receivers down here to the wide side of the field, and typically the tight ends are going to be into the boundary. So the first kind of trigger that goes off or light bulb that goes off in my head is, well, why are they doing it to the field? Okay. So they, instead of run here, they actually go with a full play action. They try to take take the defense, force a safety rotation. So Lenore Sellers is going to put his eyes here when the motion begins. If this safety comes down or rotates away, they're going to send their best, most explosive player on a post route and try to open up the field right behind him.
So that's Harbor up at the top.
That's Harbor at the top. So they're now going to take the tight end. He's going to run a crossing route. The second tight end is going to run a dig. Now, the reality is Ole Miss ran a different version of this exact same play in the game from a different personnel grouping, and they end up hitting one of the outside receivers. Go in the same direction, gets Ole Miss down in the red zone. I mean, this is nothing that from a structure standpoint is just like new and unheard of. But it is, it's an effective way to attack defenses. And we see similar versions of this same idea multiple times throughout the game from this offense. Try to force a rotation, whether it be across or down, and replace that rotation with a post route. So this is, I believe, opening play of the game. There they go. They get the look they want. He runs past the corner and the ball just stays in the air. I mean, you can see as the motion starts, the safety rotates over. That gives him a one-on-one, and that is an elite athlete with elite speed down the field, and the ball just lags. If the ball's out in front, if not a score, they're in the red zone to start the game. If he checks it down, if the safety stays back, I'm just going to go back and pause it. If the safety's back, he's at the top of his drop. Let's say the safety's back and he does not like the bracket.
He's got
He has a crossing route coming open
Yep.
and a dig route coming open. And a lot of that is effective because look at what the effect that the motion has on the defensive structure. So he certainly has opportunity to progress the ball down the field. So, listen, to some degree, and I said it last week, I understand the reason this kid is looked at by so many GMs. The tools exist, right? But you got to be able to use them. And right here, it's just evidence of him missing. And there were several plays in this game where he flat out missed. This is
he needs to get in the. We'll move on from this. I promise. This is a Neal thing. I'm a little obsessed with Sellers. I think he's fascinating. I get why NFL people adore him because when you watch him play like you're talking about, I mean, man, the tools just jump off the page.
Yeah.
I kind of wish he would go to the portal and go someplace that fits his skill set and have a year and develop and build some confidence and go. I've heard he's a big kid. I don't know anything about him.
I'm very curious to know what a different system would do for him.
Yeah, me too.
Some kids thrive in that environment. Some kids aren't going to, but I'm very curious to know what a system would do for him. So very next play of the game, they're going to come out. It's just another version of the divide series, but this time the two tight ends are not. They're in an unbalanced set. So they're going to bring this player back across. And now the quarterback at this point, he's looking at the numbers on the defense. Now, Ole Miss, if you were to draw the line right here outside of B gap, you have three on ball players plus a tailback. You have four guys to block one, two, three defenders for the Ole Miss defense. So the math tells him right here to give this ball, hand the jet sweep. If the math looks different, Sellers has the opportunity to keep it, run the other way. Math tells him to give it. He gives it. It's a pretty good job, honestly, by the Ole Miss defense. I mean, it's easy as a fan to sit there and go, what the hell are we doing? We just gave up 7 yards. The reality is the call that Ole Miss had on the front that they were in, the late communication trying to happen, they are out leveraged. You need the safety to go set the edge right now to try to turn the ball back inside. If he does turn it back inside, everyone else has to be in the right path, taking the right angles. The safety cups up, forces the ball back inside, and that is the only reason this is only a 7 yard gain, is because that safety does a good job of forcing the ball. Do you like giving up 7 yards on 2nd and 10? Definitely not. But quite honestly, when you're grading this thing out on film, you're not throwing a lot of negatives on the field because you now have, I mean, you're five hats to the football and you forced it back into help and didn't let it get on the perimeter. And ultimately that's good defensive football. Is it great defensive football? No. Right. But that is an effective down by this Ole Miss defense to force the ball back to your help and end up getting and limiting them to a stop. So here we are, 3rd down. Okay. So the trend so far is motion. They clearly started the game with the plan. Let's motion the hell out of this defense, see if we can get them to react. So they start here again. They are going to motion across. Now they're going to take one of these players and they are going to, I believe it's the inside receiver, and they're going to push him vertical. So if that umbrella that's created by the safeties were to disappear, somebody rotates down, you give him kind of a pre-snap indicator of an alert is what you call it with a shot play. But realistically, what they're trying to do in this 3rd and 4th situation is they're going to end up with a little spacing concept underneath, giving him an easy underneath throw to try and convert. The tailback is going to add to it. So it's a 4 strong concept. So you see as the motion happens, they get a player running down the middle of the field. This safety is kind of late reacting. He's playing outside leverage. And if he likes it, he has a chance to drive the ball here on this post route, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not the objective of the play. That route is primarily there to kind of clear things out. And as you're really only going to be there if you get a bust. So he wants to work underneath. And you see as he works underneath, Ole Miss does a decent job. They hug this curl right here. He's expanding to the back. This ball has to go here to the tight end. And if it does on time in rhythm, then it's going to be a good ball. Now you watch Sellers here, his feet, it's like his eyes, he moves past this window
Yep.
a little bit too quickly, and his feet get happy, and he feels the pressure from the backside. It's only a 3-man rush from Ole Miss.
Even
And
though there's really no pressure yet.
there's really no pressure, and he starts to work for no reason, and he gets himself off platform and ends up throwing this ball in the dirt in what very easily could have been a completion here. So you can see it here as the motion happens. He kind of peeks backside to make sure he doesn't have an easy hitch. Now his eyes come back front side. Right now, the little mini curl on the outside is open. He's not comfortable. He pushes out of the pocket for no reason and ends up, like I said, putting the ball into the dirt.
Yeah, they
That's
gave
just
him a good pocket and he bailed out of it like super fast.
just super fast, just was not comfortable in the pocket. So
Interesting.
skipping forward a little bit farther down the line. Okay. Again, motion continues to be a trend. There's several motion clips that I didn't include. In this one, they're going to motion across and they're going to try to get into, they've really got 2 things going on. They have a downfield passing concept on the bottom side of the screen. So what they're going to try to do is they're going to push one player vertical. He's going to end up probably here in this deep corner. The outside receiver is going to kind of stack behind, and he's going to end up the mid-level player on this deep out, and the motion guy is going to end up in the flat. So he has an option to read this flood concept. Pretty standard. As the motion happens, there's 3-over-3 with the middle of the field defender. It's a pressure look by Ole Miss, so he chooses to take the opposite side. What they're going to do is they're going to run this little check drag by the tight end, who's got an option to sit down if he finds space. And the running back is going to run what's called a Texas or an angle route. He's going to start in the flat, and then he's going to come back inside. Ole Miss tried to run this exact same concept. I don't remember if it was to 11 or 17 during the game on Saturday. It's a play. It's when Austin Simmons came in the game against Georgia last year. Big first down to Caden Lee was on this exact type of scheme. Okay. Here, because of numbers, he chooses to work the top of the screen. Okay. So I'm going to show it to you here from the wide, and then we'll show it from the tight. So the tight end chips. Now, if the pressure is not good, he puts the ball right here on his tight end in rhythm. It's an easy, easy first down.
Yeah.
Okay. Here, there's no reason that that ball does not come out. It should be first down moving the sticks. He moves off of it again because of the pressure. Now, he scrambles and he converts on this one. So they live to play another down. But again, Ole Miss has been, and you have to give some credit to the defense, and in a major part because of the pressure. And Ole Miss hasn't gotten a ton of sacks, but they have been effective in kind of controlling the pocket and getting a quarterback off their spot this season.
And that makes me wonder, Pete, if Lenoris was watching a lot of film this week and sort of like you've talked about ghost. I kind of wonder if he saw some ghost a little bit because they've been putting pressure on, like he put a lot of pressure on Oklahoma.
The kid's been pressured every week. And then he watches film and he sees Ole Miss putting a lot of pressure on him, a lot of times out of just a 3 and a 4-man rush. So, yeah, I absolutely feel like it's a combination of what he's seen throughout the course of the season and what he's seen on film in preparation. But you can see it here. The motion's happening. He's looking now.
PTSD a little bit.
He's trying to find it. All right, I need to work this backside. I'm outnumbered. I got 4 guys to my left, so I'm going to work my backside right here. So he starts his eyes there to kind of hold it. Now he comes back. That ball right now should be right there.
There's his lane. Everything's right there.
100%. He comes off of it quickly, and he's waiting on his running back to come back inside. But there's pressure here. He feels the bull rush getting into his lap, so he gets out of the pocket. Now, maybe should have been a holding call. Does not get called right there. Ole Miss does a good job. Perkins turns the boosters on to get to him and kind of usher him out of bounds. But easily, Ole Miss is really benefited from quarterbacks not being on time, not being in rhythm, and by doing a good job themselves of creating a little bit of havoc in the pocket.
Okay? It's the only thing that kind of worries you looking ahead a week just to Lagway is you just don't want him to get into a rhythm where he can start trying to hurt you a little bit.
You need Lagway to play the game the way he's played against most teams he's seen. Yeah. Not the way he played against Ole Miss last year.
Exactly.
He couldn't miss against Ole Miss last year.
He was really,
that's the reality.
Yep.
But you go back and watch that Georgia game last year, and last week, and he missed a ton that could have easily seen that game go the other way. So here's another use of motion. Okay, they're going to motion across here, and they're going to get into what's known as a climb concept. Again, they're going to take one of the best athletes in the SEC. They're going to push him deep on this post route. If everything carries with him and all these safeties, whoever they are, go with him, they're going to bring a crossing route from the opposite side to occupy the void that's been created by that clear out. And the motion guy is going to end up in the flat. So any flat defender, in theory, is held down here. Any safety that clears out is going to open up the space for the crosser, and you create a nice void. Everybody in football runs some version of it. Ole Miss absolutely does. So here's the motion again. So what he's looking at here, and they're going to play action. Where's the safety? So the motion, I got a feeling both safeties were probably not intended to bite down on the motion. I can't Can't tell you 100% what they're trying to do coverage wise here, but I have a hard time believing that both of these safeties were responsible for that motion in the flat. Okay. In particular, because the backside safety does not rotate to the middle of the field. So again, there's this rotation, there's the vertical. Now, honestly, he has a chance at the post. He doesn't love it because of where this safety is. The smart throw is to come down here, but there's chaos in the pocket. It doesn't have to be a sack to be effective. That's 100% what happens here because this should be a touchdown for South Carolina. And if not a touchdown, they should be inside the red zone. And the reality is right here, he flat out misses. And if you watch it from the end zone, he misses because of the chaos in front of him. There is just enough there to keep him from really stepping into the throw. And it forces the incomplete. This is just another example of motion really affecting this Ole Miss defense and Ole Miss really being fortunate that their opponent was not able to take advantage of it. So here's another example. Here's another look at motion. Their motion this now what they're doing is they're starting with the tight end. The tight end was out wide. They're going to motion him down. So earlier we had the outside receiver on the post, the climb coming from the backside, and the motion guy ended up in the flat. So here they're just going to kind of exchange some responsibility. Outside guy is going to become the flat player. The slot is the post. Now here comes the climb from the backside, and they're going to motion the tight end in to use him in protection. So again, he's going to come off of the play action here, and it's all about what's happening with the safeties. So there's the motion. This safety expands, works off the hash, but they're playing a man technique underneath. Now, Ole Miss does a much better job right here in staying on top of it. Now, I honestly think he should have thrown the post right here because the front side safety comes off of the post to take the climb route, and Ole Miss ends up with the pass interference call right there. I honestly think he should take the ball here to the post.
I
But I
remember
think,
this play. This is
but
where
I think
the safety sort of misplays the ball on the end.
yes, he
That's
misplays the
what leads
ball.
to the pass interference.
Yeah. Now I do think 16, whether it's because he sees the eyes of Sellers or he just sees the opposite route coming, does a great job of actually coming off of this post. But right there, you can see if that ball is laid out here, it has a chance to be another explosive play for South Carolina. Instead, he sees Harbor coming across the field. He comes off and he just misplays it. Has a chance to be an interception. But again, let's go back to the end zone copy. Clean feet make complete passes. When he sets up to throw this ball, he doesn't have clean feet. He's got somebody unblocked in his face. Doesn't even end up a shot, but it affects the accuracy of the throw. Doesn't let the quarterback step into it. So again, Ole Miss has done a good job keeping the quarterback from being clean and comfortable. Now this is the touchdown. Okay, basically the same play. There's your post. Now here's the difference. Instead of bringing the curl or the climb from the backside, what they're going to do is they're going to work a deep curl route with that receiver. His objective is to hold this safety, let the motion try to affect this safety, and if that happens, now you have a high-low. You have the high with the post and the low with this curl from the backside receiver. Okay, so here, let me erase my drawings. Here comes the motion, the tight end in, back to the play action, 7-man protection. Lane talked about this in the press conference. They rotate out. They're trying to get into essentially a Tampa 2 look. He could not be sitting flat-footed with this receiver climbing him vertical. He has to protect it with depth. He gets caught flat-footed, eyes in the backfield. There goes Harbor right behind him. And if we watch it from the top, the curl from this receiver holds the boundary safety. You isolate the middle of the field guy, and that's all the quarterback needs. There's the touchdown. You go to the end zone copy, you can see his eyes as he comes off the little fake right here. He's looking right here. If he gets depth, he's going to throw the curl underneath. When he flat foots and drives the curl, right now, boom, there's the flat foot. Eyes go to the post, throw it over his head. Trust your athlete to go outrun him. It's really just repetition of very similar design structure. But the big thing that stood out to me is the same thing we've talked about a couple weeks now, is it's the use of motion that's really giving Ole Miss issues right now in the secondary. And Ole Miss is going to have to clean that up, and they're going to have to improve that moving forward to continue to have the same success that they've been having.
Because they're going to see lots of it. Yeah.
They're going to see lots of it. Everybody's going to keep scheming it. It's on film. And once it's on film, people are going to attack it. Absolutely. So, all right. So I'm going to kind of just real quickly, some of these plays we're not going to spend a ton of time on. Early in the game, I think Trinidad had a little bit of trouble kind of getting into a rhythm. And I think some of it was maybe just seeing some things he didn't expect. Some of it maybe be other reasons. But so just first play here. Again, not going to spend a ton of time, but Ole Miss is going to run what's called a dash concept. So they're going to send this wide receiver here is going to be down, and he's going to run a comeback. Tight end is going to stay in to protect. They're going to slip Lacey out into the flat, and they're going to bring Caden Lee, in this case, behind him. The quarterback's first read is actually a hitch into the boundary. If he's expecting some type of soft coverage, he's going to throw that hitch and live with it. If there's not soft coverage, he's going to get out of his drop, and he's going to move the pocket, and now he's going to work this little flood that they've got going to the field. 100% Trinidad is expecting to get a bail corner and end up throwing this hitch into the boundary, and the corner instead sits on it, and he throws a hitch that almost goes the other way, almost ends up as an interception. So I think just even early on, whether it was just bad eyes, bad anticipation, or just not getting the look that they expected to get based on film, I think that he had a hard time getting in a rhythm. The very next play, this is the first third down of the game, Ole Miss actually ends up in what happens to be the perfect play call right here. They're going to send one receiver, and how it distributes, I don't remember exactly, to the flat. They're going to send one guy on a crossing route, and one person is going to be working shallow underneath right here. Because South Carolina is going to be in a pressure look and a spy look because of they're worried about Chambliss's legs, you're going to see Ole Miss actually has a chance to throw a shallow underneath right now that is going to convert for an easy first down.
Easy.
Absolutely. So he's going to start with his eyes out wide like he is looking to see how it distributes. Now, the issue is South Carolina gets upfield right now. He feels pressure in his feet. If he's able to stand in the pocket, I think the ball goes right here, and the third play of the game ends up being an absolute explosive for this Ole Miss offense. Instead, he's forced to flush out of the pocket. And one of the odd things to me, and sometimes quarterbacks just have those nights, this is a situation where several times throughout the course of the season, we've seen Chambliss get out of this pocket and take off.
Oh, and he's got plenty of land.
If he runs right now, he's outrunning two guys.
Yeah.
If he outruns those guys, it's a first down Ole Miss. And he has a ton of damn space to work with when he does.
Potentially just kind of one man to beat to get to the 50.
1,000%, right? Instead, he tries to throw the one-on-one, and Caden Lee kind of gets held on to a little bit there, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, because Chambliss
you're not going to get that call much.
No, well, especially when you're off your spot and you kind of throw it into the dirt right there.
Yeah.
Right? I was really surprised to see him not take off and run that early. Now, one thing we know Ole Miss does like to do, especially in third and medium type situations, is they like quarterback draw. So I thought that this South Carolina defense had a good plan against quarterback draw. Okay. What they did was they allowed their outside rushers a little bit of freedom and told them to go get the quarterback, right? Try to keep him in the pocket. But they utilized bull rush on the inside. And they utilized the bull rush knowing that as soon, when I can get two hands on my guard and I can lock out and extend, I can get eyes on the quarterback. And as soon as he steps up in the pocket, I can retrace and fall back underneath. So instead of a lot of movement to try and slant and create space to rush the quarterback, they use the bull rush to try to maintain the pocket, be able to fall out. In addition, their linebackers were patient getting out of there. And you can see 17 in this particular clip. So you'll see as the ball snap, there goes 93 in the bull rush. You can see the same thing with 99 in the bull rush. They're not trying to get home. They are 100% play the bull, eyes on the quarterback, fall back inside, limit the gain. So I thought good design right there, good awareness, obviously, by the South Carolina defensive staff. Charlie Weiss and company have had some fun on third and fourth downs here of late. In the Oklahoma game, they did it with two quarterbacks on the field. They took some of the same concepts and brought them into the South Carolina game, but they did it without putting two quarterbacks on the field. This was the, I believe, fourth down reverse pass right here, where they're going to give the reverse to 11, and he clearly has the opportunity to throw this football, but it is out there in front for him to run it. Number 4, the corner for South Carolina, does a good job. If he comes up and attacks it right now, Daquan Wright is running wide open behind him. He's forced to stay back, take that in his zone, and that's what gives 11 a chance to take off and run with the football. Now, one thing that helped, Ole Miss got stopped on the reverse later in the game. Here, it does help that the edge rusher in this particular instance, he kind of trips and falls. When they run it later in the game, he's 100% expecting. It's a different player, I believe, but the defender's 100% expecting it. So Ole Miss with nice design there. It's interesting to see that they were willing to let 11 potentially throw the football there. That's something now that as a defensive staff moving forward, you have to look at and be prepared for. Okay. One thing that I was actually kind of thinking last week that we haven't seen a ton of the Ole Miss offense, and then it showed up this week, is for a while Ole Miss a really fan of the slider by one of the tight ends, or in this case, a receiver that's lined up kind of as a tight end or H-back, where they will block the run and then go block and throw a screen out the backside. Ole Miss was really, really almost they relied on this too much back in like 23, and they've kind of grown out of it a little bit. But here, they're going to run it as a full-fledged boot. So they're going to push a guy here. He's going to block down and release late. You're going to get the flat defender here, Caden Lee in the crosser. Trinidad's Chambliss is going to come out of the play action fake there. Easy throw and catch into the boundary on 1st and 10. Gets Ole Miss first down and down inside the 5, almost a touchdown. If you fast forward to later in the game to the tight end or the touchdown by the touchdown by Daquan Wright, it's actually on the same scheme. Now here, another way of protecting that same scheme is that Ole Miss actually goes back to a well that they used to score against Oklahoma. We watched a play after the Oklahoma game where 85, the tight end, blocks down and really tripped and fell, and then got up and released to the opposite flat. Now, they did it at the Oklahoma game, going the opposite direction, and it ended up wide open. Here, and this is kind of part of the, I don't think Kiffin was pleased with the red zone offense necessarily in this particular game, but that's what they're going to try to do right here. They're going to bring players across the field at both levels, behind the line, and then they're going to try to leak him here. Okay. So here again, there's the motion into the play action. All this is a decoy. This is a decoy. You're trying to run people out of there. And your first read, they call this cross country. is going to be this crossing route to the back pylon, and then you're trying to slip the backside tight end underneath so that if they play back on that deep crosser, you get the underneath player. Here, South Carolina does a good job of taking the deep crosser. Now, I believe that's number one. I think that's Stribling needs to be
Yeah.
deeper. He has to carry that into the back of the end zone. If he does that and it pulls number 4, 85 ends up open. But by being so shallow in the end zone right here, he really allows the safety, excuse me, and the corner to play both of those receivers and does not give Chambliss an easy out with the football. It's honestly a nice job throwing the location on this throw that he ends up making low and kind of away from the fender inside of the tight end is really the only place this football can safely be thrown. So I do think it was actually a good attempt and throw on the run, but the execution there is not what Ole Miss is looking for. You see the tight end chips, comes across, throw on the move. Again, it's about as good of a ball as you could ask for from Chambliss, and they just still aren't able to execute. Okay. Now, this is one of my favorite things that Ole Miss did in the game, and they did it several times, and I've actually got it on here several times to show you. So this is obviously it's a 4-wide formation. I believe Ole Miss felt that South Carolina would want to keep 2 high safeties. So in order to have enough defenders to adequately defend the pass and the RPO, when Ole Miss put trips 3 receivers out to the wide side of the field, one of the linebackers had to remove from the box. So now you have 5 offensive linemen to block 4 down linemen and a linebacker. If this linebacker comes back in the box, there's some type of an RPO game to the field, which is an easy read and an easy throw and catch for the quarterback. So what they're going to do here instead is they're going to now, because as soon as that Mike linebacker expands, he's going to now read the safety. And they're going to throw a post or a glance route behind him. If this safety is deep, you have 5 to block 5 and one of the most productive tailbacks in the country. And if that safety steps down to play the run, you throw the RPO behind him. So simple design here, but it just shows what they're expecting to get based on film. They know that South Carolina wants to get into this coverage where they're man-to-man on number 1, flat defender, deep half defender, but they need a curl player. That's the linebacker that is here having to expand out of the box. So you can see as the design happens, his eyes are going to go right to that safety. Safety steps down, throw behind him. Safety backs up, hand the football off. Safety steps down, pull the ball, good route. If the ball's out in front more, it might be a touchdown for Ole Miss, but very, very simple design. So now I'm actually going to skip forward a couple of plays to the next drive. Ole Miss comes out. It's the exact same play call, just the other direction. Again, eyes go to the boundary safety. You've gotten the look you want with a 5-man box. The Mike linebacker has expanded. This time, the safety plays back, hand the ball off, turns into an 8-yard gain for the Ole Miss offense. If I were to skip forward, and I'm going to X out, and I'm going to go all the way down, skip to here. This is Lacey's long touchdown run. Again, it's the exact same scheme. You're reading the deep safety. He's showing you right now what his intentions are. He's staying deep, hand the ball off, 5 to block 5. He makes one guy miss, and then he's good enough in the open field to extend it and go make it happen. Ole Miss, in my opinion, does as good of a job as anybody in the country, maybe even better, of finding very simple schemes that they can use multiple times throughout a game. And it's about being able to predict the look, but having answers if the look changes. And that was certainly on display in this game. All right, going back now, showed you the example earlier where they hit, I believe it was Stribling in the flat. So they're going to come back to the same type of scheme here. You're going to clear out on the front side. You're going to get a backside drag. Tight end is going to be down, down, down. He's going to be in the flat. Now, In the NFL, they call this the keeper. Okay. Typically, if you get one guy in the flat, it's a boot. When you add a second player as a delayed flat route. So in this case, Taquan Wright's going to down, 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 leak out. It's called the keeper. So your first look is either, if not the flat player, then it is going to be the deep player. And your kind of bailout, your safety net, is this second tight end that's leaking out. If everything leaves, he's going to work flat. If he looks out there and it's jumbled, he's just going to try to go find and sit down in the window. Daquan Wright does a great job on this play. If you just focus here on number 8, he's going to block down, 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 down. He's going to sell. He's going to get out late, and he's just patient. And then he has a very good feel for realizing all the trash that is outside of me, everything's getting over the top. So he's just going to stick his foot in the ground and get vertical. And then Chambliss does a great job of knowing where that safety valve is. But this is a really heads-up job right there by Daquan Wright of understanding spacing and feel.
He's going to
It's almost – he's Karl Malone in the pick and roll. He's playing in the NFL. His blocking, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second on the next clip we're going to watch actually.
Right.
But, I take that back, 2 clips from now. But his blocking has improved tremendously since he's gotten to Oxford. But his ability to play in space is high level. And here, I mean, he is Karl Malone playing pick and roll. Find the void, slip to the basket, go where they're not, finish the ball, And he does a really, really nice job of it. All right. So we're going to flip.
You know what, Pete? He's sort of the example of not to interrupt your flow, but as we get into portal season, I mean, I know this is hard to do for people because people get emotional about the portal and stuff. Is you never really know because they liked Daquan Wright.
Yes.
But they brought him in to be depth and a backup piece for Caden Prieskorn.
And then they went out last year and got Luke Haas a bunch of money.
Right. And got Trace Bruckler. And so just attempt to be calm in the portal and understand that not everything's going to go precisely one way or the other, the way that everyone anticipates. Like they gave Caleb Odom a bunch of money and they thought he was going to be super impactful, and he might be down the road, but this year it's been a little overwhelming at times.
And listen, and that is, I will say this. I think that's one place where you have to look at Lane Kiffin and his staff and give him credit. The evaluation piece and the ability to hit on the portal has obviously been essential to their success. What probably goes underlooked is the development that takes place once those players are there.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Trinidad Chambliss was a good player at Division II Ferris State. He has clearly been a good player this year in Oxford. That does not happen, and this is not a knock on the guys at Ferris State. I think very highly of those guys in the way that they scheme football. But he did not step on field. He did not arrive in Oxford the player he is right now. He arrived a guy that had been very well coached. He arrived a guy that had been productive and played in a great scheme. But Joe Judge and Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin have played a major role in the success of Trinidad Chambliss. You can say the same for Daquan Wright, and you can say the same for a lot of guys that have kind of, listen, 11 last year at Wake Forest wasn't making the plays he is now, and he was the same athlete. The scheme has changed, but so has the development. There's so many elements there that matter. And talking about Daquan Wright, this is one of them. This is the touchdown run from Chambliss in that game. And so much, I'm just going to go to the end zone copy. There's a lot of impressive football being played. One thing you're saying when you put this in is you are fully counting on your tight end to give you an edge. They are going to pull the left tackle 61 around to clean things up. They're going to rely on a wide receiver to come inside and crack on the safety. It is a great job right here. Now, he doesn't fully get to the nose by the center, but he gets there enough to slow him down. It's a phenomenal job by 75, the right guard, to cut off here. And the left guard takes a phenomenal angle to get up to number 7 and seal that linebacker in the box. And if you just watch it one for one, and I watched every individual player on this field for this clip. just went back, replayed and replayed and replayed. And you start with DeQuan Wright. His ability to take a wide line defensive end who does pinch, but he pins him to the inside. He doesn't hold. He maintains body leverage. And you see him, watch him continue to fit and rework his hands. That's all technique driven. That is all stuff that you're working all the time as an offense. Watch 61. Pounds is going to get out, gets depth, gets flat. His eyes are inside. The body control for a guy that big to get on that safety right there and make that play is phenomenal. Watch the left guard. Watch his angle to go seal number 7. He's going to get out, wide zone path, seal him, turn him. Doesn't have to keep locked on to him because he does such a phenomenal job of actually getting there with his angle and his athleticism. Watch Kudus, I believe, 75 on the backside. Watch him cut off this inside shade and just slow down and hold him up. Phenomenal technique, phenomenal execution against a front that has proven to be productive throughout the course of this season. And this is the last clip I'm going to show, and I watched this one a lot today too. This is the interception by Chambliss. And what I thought I saw on Saturday when I rewatched it today, I'm not sure it was the same thing. One thing I can tell you is there's some miscommunication. So I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the clip when they first align. As he often does, as Ole Miss quarterbacks often do, they're looking to the sideline to get do we like what we have called? Do we want to change the play? And here Kiffin is saying, hold up. They're trying to get the look. Is it what they want? and there's Kiffin and another guy. They're all holding their hands up, telling them, hold up. Okay. So you have 2 receivers now looking to the sideline to get a signal when Chambliss snaps his ball. And what I wonder is this, because we've seen Ole Miss do it. We've seen other teams do it. I did it last Friday night. Is you're trying to make it look like you're making a check on the sidelines and you're hoping that the defense relaxes, loses posture, and looks to their sideline to get a call. And then suddenly you snap it and try to run past them and catch them off guards. Here, Kiffin looks like all of a sudden he gives a thumbs up. As soon as they give the thumbs up, the ball is snapped, and he just throws this. I don't know if they're thinking it's a certain look and they're expecting the coverage is about to change and they're going to end up with a free shot right here, but they do not get the look that they want.
Ooh, no.
And what you need is Chambliss really has to recognize when he sets his feet right there, the pocket's clean. You've got to see safety over the top, corner bailing, and come back underneath and take your outside relief. And here he just forces the ball up, and it ends up being an interception. That was the real flaw in his game. I mean, he missed a couple, right? But that was the biggest just, oh my God, what are you doing kind of play. And what I couldn't tell, was it them kind of trying to be tricky by design? Was it just a miscommunication? Because when the ball snapped, if I pause this now, ball snapped, both of these receivers are just now getting in their stance. They're not breaking off the line of scrimmage. They've just gotten the signal, and they're late getting off the ball. So I think I don't know if it's Ole Miss trying to be too cute right there, or trying to do too much, or if it's just kind of poor execution and poor communication. But the more Ole Miss can do, obviously, to limit those things in the future, the more it's going to help them. We haven't said one thing about the Citadel.
Well, I mean,
here's what I'm going to tell you.
okay.
And I said this to you off the air before we started. I hate it for Pete Golding. Lane Kiffin said it earlier this week. The defense has been making strides, and he thinks this is one of the best coaching jobs that his staff has done, is getting this defense week after week and adjusting the scheme and having them in the right place and being productive. And I don't disagree with Lane in any way, shape, or form. And now you're picking this defense up and you're dropping them in England where they're having to drive on the wrong side of the road now. I mean, that's literally, you're taking them out of everything that they've done, because now you're talking about a triple option offense. And this isn't Paul Johnson, Georgia Tech. It's more gun heavy, but you're talking about an offense, and listen, they're 4-5. They're scoring 23 points a game. They're giving up 25 points a game. They've rushed for over 2,000 yards and 16 touchdowns. They've still thrown for about 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. They're productive offensively, and part of that is just what they do is not what you're used to seeing, and it can be hard to adjust to. They play two different quarterbacks. One has run for 576 yards, thrown for 544. The other one thrown for 519 or excuse me, run for 519 and thrown for 460. Like there's balance in what they do, and there's some good design in what they do. At the end of the day, though, they're an offense that has run the ball 414 times, and they've only thrown it 106 times. Now that doesn't count sacks and scrambles and some of those things. So for Ole Miss, it's just going to be, can you play a disciplined style of football against players? You're better, period.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. Can you play a disciplined style of football and get them off the field? Because one thing that Citadel is going to try to come in here and do is control the clock as much as possible. Snap the ball with as little time on the play clock as possible. They're going to try to use motion to get the secondary and adjust the fit and responsibility, because when you're playing option football, it's all about responsibility. But they're going to try to adjust who has responsibility for pitch and who's got quarterback. And they're going to try to slow the game down and just walk out of here with the paycheck. And they're going to talk in the locker room about coming in and shock the damn world and number 7 team in the country. And the reality is, I think Ole Miss has to get sick at pregame for that to be a real thing.
All I heard that you just said, all I really heard was you said they're going to run it a lot more than they're going to pass it, and they're going to work the clock. And I got to tell you, things moved, and because all I really want,
you don't want the red hat guy slowing you down.
I don't want him slowing me down, because I want to be able to get done and home in time to get on the post-game show and to cheer against a certain team, which means I'm cheering for a certain team on Saturday. I just kind of want to keep hammering nails into a coffin. And listen, if the Doors can help do that for me, so I'm all in.
That is a good looking hat. Do you have a Clark Lee fan club t-shirt? I need to know these things.
I don't, but I need to get one.
I listen, when I was young, I had a Refrigerator Perry fan club. I had the refrigerator magnet. I'm pretty sure I had a t-shirt. I was like 6 years old, right? I think if that is not a thing, there's no reason that MPW Digital cannot be the founding of the Clark Lee fan club.
Clark Lee is aware of I know this, that Clark is aware of my very heterosexual man crush, and I'm cheering for him. And I was disappointed last week. I thought they were coming back, and the onside kick, I was like, ooh, and then we didn't get it. And but no, I mean, look, I think look, Vandy's a fun story, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't enjoy watching Auburn lose. So yeah, two worlds collide a little bit, and I'm writing about the week that's ahead, the stuff that's ahead. Next week's going to be a weird week with the
weird week.
The Florida Kiffin stuff, and there's a lot on the line. I mean, there's a lot on the line for Ole Miss. I mean, they're going to beat the Citadel.
They're going to beat the Citadel. What you want, and listen, everything I've seen from Kiffin and the players this week, they're saying the right things. What you don't want to do is spend enough time looking ahead. And that's part of the disadvantage of playing the Citadel because of who they are scheme-wise. We knew going into Washington State that Ole Miss had spent some time on Georgia.
A lot.
How much time can you spend on Florida knowing that what the Citadel does requires time? And that's again,
probably not much. Probably get this done, get players off the field.
That's got to be the goal. And so again, I hate it for Pete Golding and that defensive staff to have this opponent this week.
Yeah.
Anybody that runs a spread offense and they just go do their thing and they play simple football and it is what it is. This is it's a different beast. And yes, Ole Miss is definitely going to put better players on the field. But you have to practice against what you're going to see, and it keeps them from being. So in some ways, maybe it is a good thing because maybe it does keep them from looking ahead to those Florida Gators.
I don't think he's going to have any hard time at all on Sunday morning getting guys to turn the page.
Definitely not.
They know what's on the line. I mean,
Yeah.
they're 2 wins away from at worst being the 6th seed.
Yeah.
But perhaps being the 5, maybe even the 4 if there's enough, chaos in front of them down the road. And on the flip side, you lose a game to Florida or to Mississippi State, and you're probably okay, but you have absolutely put your fate in the hands of the jury.
Absolutely.
And
And
at that
you
point,
don't control anything at that point.
you lose control. And if you win, you're in total control. I mean, you're no worse than the 6. You're playing at home in Oxford, and you're probably playing either the Group of 5 champ or an ACC champ.
Yep.
And it's a game that, like, there was a preliminary line put on Ole Miss and Virginia if they actually played this week, if the season ended Tuesday, and Ole Miss was a 17-point favorite. I mean, that's a game you should win, right? You're going to be playing in one of the big games on December 31st or January 1st. It's all in front of you. So I don't know. I think what you're going to see from them this week is, hey, let's get this done. Let's try to get it done, get some backups in, let some guys get some minutes, and then turn the page pretty damn quick to the Florida Gators, because a weird week is ahead.
It is. And I can't wait to look at Florida and talk about it next week.
Absolutely. So for Pete DeWeese, I'm Neal McCready, and thanks to the people at RiverLand Roofing again. All season long, we will turn the page to the Florida Gators. That game, a 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern game on ESPN next Saturday, followed by an open date, and then Ole Miss and Mississippi State on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. That's an 11 a.m. game in Starkville, so we'll get those previews to you as well. Until next week, though, for Pete, I'm Neal. Take care.